once that dream, once that fire is lit inside an entrepreneur, they're like, okay, well, this might not be the exact correct right business opportunity for me, but the vision, the dream of independence and freedom is still there, and it will keep on burning and it'll keep you going.
Welcome to the My Future Business Show, where we get you in front of your best audience and keep you there. Not only are we interviewing the biggest names in business to help you become even more successful, we're inviting you to book your spot on the show to help you grow your business. So at the end of the call, make sure you fill in the interview application form at myfuturebusiness.com/interviews.
Hello, and welcome back to the show. My name is Rick Nusky. I'd just like to take a second of pause for, just sharing with you how grateful I am to be your host and for all of the feedback that we're receiving about the show. It's wonderful, it's warm, it's supportive, and it's certainly inspiring. And talking about inspiring and uplifting and making a difference, I'd love to welcome to the show Mayim Vega. Welcome to the show, Mayim.
Hi, Rick. It's nice to be here. I'm excited to be
Yes.
here.
No, look, you have a wonderful background, just for everybody, so we have some context. You're a naturopathic herbalist and a holistic life coach. And we're going to be talking about that in some depth, and we're going to talk about your business and exactly what you do. But it's, traditional for us to spend a bit of time talking about the people behind the business. So I'm wondering if we can do what we normally do and start off by finding out where you live. Where's home for you?
Um, well, I was born in the Philippines, and I came to America when I was around 3 years old, and I lived in California until 2014. And then after that, I moved to Texas for bigger space because back in California, we had 4 children, and we were in a cramped little townhouse, and we needed more space. So we
Yes.
came to Texas. We traded our 1,200 square foot townhouse for a 4,000 square foot home on an acre of
Oh, wow.
beautiful land and it was cheaper.
Yeah.
Our home price was cheaper
Beautiful. I like cheaper.
than in California.
Yeah, that's excellent. And you've always seen America as the home of opportunity, obviously, because you've
Mm.
done a lot with your time, which I think is wonderful. Now, I wonder, as a mom, do you find yourself in a leadership role all the time for them? And what's a day like for you, not only running a business but playing that role as well?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, so I have 7 children and I homeschool them. And I feel like, the way I run my home and the way I do business is very similar. I make sure everything is organized, and I know the affairs of both my business as well as my children. And I like to instill in them um, values that I use in my business, such as, financial independence
Hmm.
and just independence in general. And, and then also I instill in them, the holistic health and healing principles that, of course, I use not only in business, but it's even more so in my family as I raise my children, because, I've raised my 7 children very holistic. None of them have ever um, um, had antibiotics, like
Understood.
prescription
Yep.
antibiotics.
Yep.
They've never taken any kind of pharmaceutical drugs. Um, they don't see doctors, normal medical doctors. Once in a great while, we'll see a homeopath,
Hmm.
a homeopathic medical doctor, or a chiropractor. But everything else we are able to deal with at home because of this wonderful skill, this gift, this knowledge that I've acquired.
That's wonderful, and I bet you they are all fit and healthy. And did you is has the homeschooling component always been the way it was, or is that due to pandemic? What is that? Is that a standard thing in your home?
We've always homeschooled.
Hmm.
I come from a religious background, and so my friends, most of them have also always homeschooled their children, and also most of my friends are also very holistic. It kind of, I don't know, seems to
Flow, doesn't
go with the territory, I guess.
it?
When you're enlightened about the things that are going on in the world, that includes everything, you know,
Mm-hmm.
like,
Mm-hmm. Now,
yeah.
tell me about your partner. I know that I've seen him in a few images, and how big a part does he play in, I guess, the family life and the running of the home? How important is that relationship?
Well, yes, he's a great father. He's very supportive.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when I began, I think we were both pretty holistic to begin with.
Yeah.
Um, we were vegetarian for a long time,
Mm-hmm.
even before we got married, and then we're not anymore. We do eat meat. I don't.
Yeah.
Um, it's not healthy for me, and to be vegetarian. I found that
Yeah.
out
Yeah.
through my discoveries as well. But yeah, and he's also very holistic minded. I've taken him through this journey with me, and sometimes we debate on what's like a better natural remedy. Like for example, for cuts and wounds. Like I think that I always my go-to is lavender for cuts and wounds, and he likes
Oh yes.
to use manuka honey, and
Mm.
sometimes he'll like prefer vitamins, and I'll like say no herbs, So sometimes we'll debate. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for sharing. I'm really loving the call. I really do appreciate it because we all learn quite a bit. Because in the traditional business world, a lot of people don't have this same mentality, this same approach, this same enlightenment, as you refer to it as. And, there's certainly a lot to be learnt. Now, I'm wondering, as a busy person, when do you get downtime and what does that look like for you? Do you read? Do you listen to music? Do you meditate? What happens for you?
Well, you know what? We are Jewish,
Mm-hmm.
so we keep Shabbat, and I think that is a blessing for me as an entrepreneur
Yeah.
because before I was religious, I used to I'm a workaholic, by nature. I just love to be productive. And that's another value that I've instilled in my children. I always want them to be productive and I want them to be producers instead of consumers. Um,
You can get into
so
that trap for sure, can't you? Being a consumer.
yeah, yeah. And so I think having the Sabbath, the Shabbat, that has been a blessing for me to have downtime and spend a whole day with family and friends and God and read and stuff like that.
So you spend a lot of time in reflection, one would think.
Especially on Shabbat, yes, absolutely. It's really nice
Yeah. And
to
it's
have that.
calm and it's peaceful and it's quiet. And nowadays in our society, being the way things seem to be going, let's say seem to be, because the media has a lot to be accountable for, don't they? How do you deal with those things? How do you turn them off? Do you not have technology? What's the go?
We have technology, but we're selective about it. And I'm
Mm.
so glad those days of, keeping the TV on 24/7. I'm so glad that that's
Yeah,
no longer
agree.
really a thing in
Indeed.
most households anymore, at least
No.
not that I know of. It used to be when I was growing up, it was
Oh
like the
yeah.
TV was always on,
Yep.
the propaganda machine was always on, always something negative. So now we do actually as part of homeschool, I try to keep them up with the children up with things that are relevant and that affect us and
Yep.
affect them
Yep.
as
Yep.
well. We don't only learn from books, but we learn from what's happening in the world today. I think that's very important and how to think through those things. And also, well, we're also very conservative, and most of the media and most of the schools do not teach that.
Mm.
They don't teach conservative or religious values, and so that's something that we do, and we try to be positive, and we try to help our children to see that no matter how things look bleak,
Yep.
there's always, having faith. It always helps me to, I think, center myself and realize that all these bad things that are happening are temporary and the world will go on because we have a benevolent and loving God that will not let it, you know, come to
Yeah.
total destruction, so
Absolutely.
to speak.
Yeah, I'm loving the call. I really do appreciate it. Now, I wonder, you touched on mindset. I wonder the genesis of your entrepreneurial spark. Where did that come from? What was that first moment? What were you thinking at the time?
I love that question. It started because in high school, I was watching this really cheesy infomercial, and it was really
You too?
inspirational. Yeah, I think a lot of entrepreneurs, they're like, they kind of get sucked in. And then it was a disappointment. I talked my parents into buying me this program, and I didn't even know what it was really. It was just like, oh, you can work from home, and it's very easy. And when I opened it up, I was like, oh, you clip coupons, and I think
Mm,
you clip coupons and you turn them in for cash as if you were a grocery store. So it was like really shady. I was like, I'm not doing that, but it's still, I think an entrepreneur doesn't give up. Once once that fire is lit inside an entrepreneur, they're like, okay, well, this might not be the exact correct right business opportunity for me, but the vision, the dream, the dream of independence and freedom and all that is still there, and it will keep on burning, and it'll keep you going throughout. um the Bible says the righteous fall 7 times, but then they get back up again.
they always
And that's
get back
also,
up.
yeah, and that's also the successful entrepreneur. It's not like, it's you succeed from day one. That's I've never heard of that story before. I've
Yeah.
always heard of, it took me, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, a million times before I succeeded, but I never gave up, and it worked, and I did it.
Another version of that is my overnight success took me 10 years.
Exactly.
Now, I'd love if we could, just for the sake of context, Mayim, is to share your educational background. What have you done with your time?
Um, yeah, well, I was actually, I in college I trained to be a computer scientist slash yeah, computer scientist, and then I went to work for NASA before I got married, as a computer scientist slash engineer.
Hmm.
And then after I got married and I had my first baby and I put my child in daycare, it was right next to, where I worked at NASA at Moffett Field in California.
Hmm.
But I didn't like it. I didn't like, giving my baby to some strangers
Oh,
that I
yeah.
didn't really have a relationship with. I didn't have my mom or my husband's mom there to help us, babysit. I think I would have, trusted if it was like a relative. But my mom was in the Philippines, and my husband's mom was 4 hours away, and it just so, and I didn't feel right. And I had my other friends were also very holistic, and they homeschooled, and I was like, well, we can do that too. Why
Hmm.
not? And I was like, that was my why for becoming an entrepreneur,
Yep.
is because of that. And so that was my first life, I guess, so to speak.
Yeah, that's
And then we had
fantastic.
yeah,
Keep
and
going.
then we had like a series of like health crises
Mm.
in my family, with starting with my son when he was born, and then later the final straw was with me when I started getting terrible migraines, and I don't even remember having a headache before that time. And I thought I was going to die. I had already had 2 children, but the pain that I was feeling with the migraines was worse than childbirth. And so you can imagine it just kept getting worse and worse and worse. And I thought I was going to die. And so I told my husband to rush me to the emergency room in the middle of the night.
Wow.
And they ran a bunch of tests and asked me a bunch of questions. And at the end, the nurse, after hours of waiting with our 2 babies in the hospital in the
Yeah,
emergency
good
room,
fun.
yeah, they finally called us up, and the nurse was like, "Oh, we can't find anything wrong with you, but the doctor would like to talk to you." So I talked to the doctor for 15 minutes total that night, really only. And she said, we can't find anything wrong with you, but we want to give you a CT scan to rule out the possibility of a tumor, but it's not covered by insurance. But we didn't have insurance anyways. She didn't know that. Had to pay
Mm.
everything out of pocket. And so, because my husband was a contractor,
Yep.
and I had already stopped working at NASA, and to be a work from home mom. And so at that time I said, well, I think I'm about to die. So what's $2,000? Um,
Small
let's
price.
do it. Let's go through the CT scan. And so I did that, and
Mm.
it ended up costing $4,000 for everything and that was a long time ago. It would be much, much more today
Yeah.
if someone went to the hospital today, maybe 10,000 or more, I don't know. But anyways, so after the CT scan, the doctor's like, good news, um, there's nothing wrong with you. You just have a really bad headache. And here's here's some really strong painkillers. And I'm like,
Oh,
what?
what?
Like, excuse me? Like, I feel like I'm about to die here. And you're telling me that there's nothing wrong with me? And I just spent like $4,000 and you have nothing for me, you know?
If nothing else, you're going to have a heart attack.
Right. You're gonna be worse, right? Like, give me else a heart attack. Yeah, exactly. And how much did that doctor spend on her education and all the
Yeah.
nurses there? And how much did that CT scanner cost? And they had nothing for me, no answers. And so that's when I realized, this that was the last straw for me. And I was like, the medical system is broken. I'm gonna have to find out the answers for myself because I would not accept that.
Mm.
I would not accept that there's nothing wrong with me. There's obviously something wrong with me if I think I'm about to die. This was just the stupidest, most ridiculous answer I'd ever heard
Mm.
from someone who is a doctor, you know?
And intuitively, you just felt that there was something wrong, and there was a better answer.
Humans are not meant to go around thinking that they're about to die because of pain. There's
Mm.
obviously something wrong. It's ridiculous to think that there's nothing wrong with you
Mm.
if you are in extreme pain.
Mm.
And at yes, intuitively that's what I believed. And so I began my studies. I studied herbalism and nutrition, and I studied at a school that no longer exists anymore. Unfortunately, a lot of holistic schools there and practices, professionals even, are targeted by the government, and they make it very hard for us to heal people because we have answers that they do not. But um, if we, if everyone knew these answers that we had, then their system would go bankrupt. Big pharma, modern medicine would no longer be needed because we would be able to heal ourselves. And that
Mm.
is the function of a true holistic healer, is not to heal someone, but to unlock, the inner healer in every single person. Every single person is their own best doctor. Or if you're a mother, you are the best healer for your child. That doesn't mean that you don't need to go to, professionals for advice, but ultimately you know your child the best, and you know your own body the best as well.
Mm.
And so that's what I learned from my herbalist teachers and my naturopathic teachers and the holistic doctors that I learned from. I later and I couldn't stop at just that one institution where I learned nutrition and herbalism. I felt like it wasn't enough.
Mm. Mm.
I felt like a lot of I did get a lot of answers, but there was also, it opened up more questions. So I
Yeah.
continued my studies, and I studied. One of the places that I learned a lot from was Dr. Christopher's School of Natural Healing, and that's where I learned about Richard Schultz, one of my favorite teachers, and also Dr. Christopher. They're not medical doctors; they are herbalists,
Mm-hmm.
master herbalists. And then later on, I went to learn with Dr. Andrew Saul, who's also not a medical doctor. He is a scientist. He has a PhD, but he studied the works of Linus Pauling, who was a two-time Nobel Prize winner, and he popularized orthomolecular nutrition or orthomolecular medicine, which a simpler way to say that is megadose vitamin therapy,
You don't ask me to
especially.
say
Yes, that's yeah.
it.
So that all kind of made it big because of Linus Pauling, this Nobel Prize winner. But his work, is mostly, there's a lot of research, there's a lot of science out there to support natural healing methods. The reason why people keep saying, oh, there's not enough evidence, there's not enough blah blah blah, is because it's not profitable. So they don't
Mm.
want to look. They don't want to look at the evidence. They don't want to look at what's out there.
Yes, and that's a different take, certainly, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, look, I'm loving the feedback that you're sharing with us. Now, in terms of time, how long did it take you to go through this training to get to a point where you felt that you had a good grasp on it and you were able to, look after yourself at least better using those techniques?
Well, as soon as I started learning, I would start experimenting.
Hmm.
And I think that's also something that, so this entrepreneurial spirit, I think it's the same also spirit that helped me to um, become a healer,
Yeah.
because as a healer, you have to be willing to take risks. And entrepreneurs also take risks, right?
Yep.
And we have to be able to, and we have to also have to be willing to take responsibility for our own health, just like entrepreneurs take responsibility for their own business, their own finances, their own,
Yep.
everything.
Yep.
So there's so many parallels with being a holistic healer and being an entrepreneur. So
Yeah,
um,
that's great feedback. It's funny, I had a question for you, if I might,
mhm.
Mayim, and it's about the name Arukah. Tell us a little bit about that. Where did that come from?
Oh yeah, sure. Well, let me let me actually read the quote where it comes from a biblical word, and
Hmm.
it means like so let me read the verse. It says in Jeremiah chapter 33, verses 2, 3, and 6. It says, "Thus saith the Lord, the maker thereof, the Lord that formed it," meaning, the earth, the heavens, "to establish it. The Lord is his name. Call unto me, and I will answer thee, and I will tell thee great and mighty things that are hidden, which you do not know. Behold, I will bring it health." And this word health translated there is that word Arukah, and
Ah,
and healing, and I will heal them, and I'll reveal unto them the abundance of peace and truth. And also in the Ten Commandments um, where it says in the Ten Commandments, it says, "I will give you long days." If you honor your parents, I will give you length of days, long
hmm,
life,
hmm,
basically.
hmm.
That word long is also aruka, or well, it's the same root as the word aruka. So it means like health or wholeness or long or just completeness, or it has this,
So many connotations to it. Abundance is something
yeah.
that comes to mind. Now, I know that you're a very balanced, skillful, educated person who has a realistic look at what you do for those around you based on what you know. And I wonder, I know that you have, you have marketing, you know that exists, you know you need it, you have your training. What else are you offering people, and how can people work with you to learn more about this to become a healer themselves if that was what they wanted to do?
Yes, absolutely. So our website is arukah.com, arukah.com. And it's been around since 2009.
Hmm.
Before, it was more informational, and I would only coach people on a one-on-one basis. But now it's a health coach certification program, because I started getting people who said, "No, don't just help me. I want to learn. I want to learn to be you. I want to learn to do what you do." And so I was like, okay. And so when I was thinking about it and I started offering, people were like, "Well, do you offer certification?" I was like, "Well, yes, I can offer certification. Certification is, third party vouching for the knowledge that you've learned, and I can certainly do that." And another aspect was, after they have this knowledge, it's actually a very profitable skill, but very profitable knowledge to have, to be able to heal people. And so, but the missing element, I believe, and really the only business model that I personally know is the online business model. So
Hmm.
all of that part of the certification program, because that's what I use, that's what I know, that's what has enabled me to replace my salary at NASA and even surpass it, while at the same time being there for my children and homeschooling them. I mean, it's just been wonderful.
Mm.
And so I really have like a passion to help mothers who were in a very same situation as I was long ago, to teach them these skills, these holistic health and healing skills, to be so that they can become the healers of their own home, and then also their communities. Not just their local communities, but today we have global communities with social media and whatnot. Their sphere of influence,
Yeah.
and and to start, um, online businesses that will enable them to be like, the Proverbs 31 woman in the Bible. It talks about how she's home with her family, but she's also an entrepreneur. She makes things, she sells things. And so I feel like this is like the modern day,
Equivalent.
the valor of Proverbs 31.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Thank you again for sharing. I wonder if we can just deep dive a little more in the few remaining minutes that we have left, Mayim, about the mini course itself. How long does it actually take for somebody to go through that? And is that just the first part towards certification?
Okay, well, no, the mini course is just a free mini course, which is to kind of wet your feet into the world of holistic health and
Ah,
healing.
right. Yep.
The kind of things that you would be learning. So in the mini course, it's an ongoing thing.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, what we have there is we have my personal journey. I share my personal journey of how I became a healer, and then I also share holistic remedies for the two most common issues that people come to the doctor for, which is number one, colds and flus, and number
Mm-hmm.
two, urinary tract infection, actually.
You're
And then we
right.
also talk about how to avoid some of the leading causes of death. But, I share some powerful herbal formulas for hypertension, which that can lead to heart attack and stroke. And those are the two leading causes of death. I also talk about cancer. I introduce people to some holistic healing methods for cancer. And I also talk about an awesome herbal calcium formula that has helped our family avoid dentists and, regrow cavities and
Nobody likes dentists.
yeah, and like heal myself and others of sciatica and whatnot, So
Yeah,
um,
wow.
yeah.
Excellent. Well, look, there's certainly a lot to learn here, and you would always be learning and endeavoring to expand your own knowledge. What's coming up for you in the next year or so? Do you have any plans for expansion or new things happening?
Um, Expansion, no, maybe not, but I'm excited. Some of the people that should be graduating not too long. We have, we have I have medical doctors, nurses, and medical technicians learning from me, not just people who with no. Actually, I don't have any mothers like I was before. Like, that's my passion, but the kind of
Yeah,
people that I'm attracting aren't even
a different
mostly
set.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, the people that are actually my students are more they actually have a health background already, a medical background, or they're just they just want the holistic health and healing knowledge, and they're also interested in the entrepreneurial portion. It's funny because I always try to market to mothers, but and I do get some inquiries, but it's that they're not the main people that sign up
Isn't
for
it
some.
funny how your demographics not oftentimes not what you think it's going to be? So, in wrapping up, which I've absolutely enjoyed our call together, Mayim, I'm wondering if you could help those who want to connect with you and learn more about what you do and how they can get involved. Where are they actually going to find you?
Well, I'm probably on my email list is the best. So if you go to arukah.com and you sign up for the free mini course,
Mm-hmm.
whenever I, have a new video or a new lesson out or, something like that, I'll send it to my email list. And I'm also on YouTube, youtube.com/Arukah. And those are probably
Oh,
the best places to follow me. It's email and YouTube.
that's wonderful. Thank you so much, Mayim, for sharing what you have done. We've really had to condense down what you do in relatively short amount of time. For anybody who's on the call with us today, there is certainly a lot more to learn. And you definitely reach out to Mayim at arukah.com. That's ARUKAH.com. I'll be making sure that link back to Mayim and her wonderful work is available to you. And with that all being said, Mayim, thank you so very much for joining me on the My Future Business Show today.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for joining us today. If you enjoyed the call, then make sure to subscribe, leave a comment, share us with your friends, and book your spot on the show at myfuturebusiness.com/interviews. And if you're looking for solutions that will help grow your business, then visit myfuturebusiness.com/shop.